Well, the announcement does make a mention of it that he calls upon, because he makes a mention of Finance Act 2012. Only two notable amendments happened. One,
but we'll need the fine print. I want to go to Bombay guests as well. By the way, the market is in the green now. So 12, 13 points on the Sensex. The Nifty is up about 10 points. And I think this is a result of a lot of the potential disappointments which have not happened. I listed many. Especially the one on capital, long-term capital gains tax.
And just as you said that, Prashant, they turned back into the red.
Yeah, it's like a traffic light, right? I mean,
it really is. Every 30, 40 seconds there's a change.
I just want to get Atul in. Mr. Bobby Parikh is there. Madan is there. Atul, you sounded disappointed. Anything else you'd like to add? You only had 30, 40 seconds initially.
Sure. I think the key focus should have been on the infrastructure spend. There was no really need to stick to a 3.5% fiscal deficit target. It was good to have number. Now, if we just look at the other number which the finance minister has given, which is the revenue deficit, which is about 1.2% of the total fiscal, which means it's dropped from 74% last year to something like about 65% this year. But if you again kind of break it down and look in, most of the crunch in the revenue deficit, which is the quality of deficit, has come because of the excise duty. Now, excise duty has been hiked on petroleum products only. There is no real case for revenue diversification that I see in this particular budget. So on one hand, you have revenue side of the budget or the income side of the budget, which is not very firmly, very strongly founded. So you have definitely a quality improvement, but it is transient. As long as you have the global crude prices at lower levels, you would continue to see a good revenue control or the revenue deficit number improving. But the moment crude prices start increasing, your revenue deficit would immediately deteriorate. That's on the revenue side. Again, if you look at on the expenditure side, an additional 30,000-40,000 crores on infrastructure doesn't really augur well for creating a consumption demand or a demand for capital goods over a long period of time. If India has to capitalize the opportunity which the FM started his speech with, which is the global economy in crisis, the global trade is shrinking. I've already spoken about, the global trade as a multiplier to global GDP. I think we should have taken the bull by the horn and spent a lot more money. Again, he's talked about irrigation, but irrigation remains a state subject. How is he going to ensure that the states spend the money that has been made allocation of? So I guess a lot of disappointment, especially from the infra side. And again, let me clarify that it is only because of the time. We should have really taken this opportunity where globally, whether we take emerging markets or advanced economies, nowhere the growth is happening. And when I compare economies, which are $2 trillion and above in terms of GDP, India was really in a sweet spot. We should have done that.
I just want a quick thought on this entire disinvestment business, which is being spoken about. Madan, the department is being renamed. So we were discussing in the morning, right? Maybe the government will really give that spending push as well. Stick to 3.5, but find the money by announcing strategic sales, etc. He's kind of mentioned that, rename the department, but not much beyond that. He said Niti Aayog will identify companies where the government will decide to let go of majority stakes.
No, I don't think renaming the department will make much of a difference. Maybe we have a different set of people who are coming and doing the same kind of jobs. That's what normally happens.
Sometimes a name can make all the difference,
No,
rarely,
actually,
yeah, go on, sorry.
So the point which I like to make here is that, see, unlike what Atul is definitely disappointed, but I keep feeling that the government had an option of either going beyond 3.5% or sticking to 3.5%. So it is a kind of toss of a coin, and they've decided to stick to 3.5%. Now that we've decided to stick to 3.5%, the whole issue is, from whatever numbers are available, your net borrowing program has come down. I'm spending more on subsidies. I'm spending more on infrastructure. And at the same time, my disinvestment proceeds are down by around how much? 15,000 crores or so. So the whole question is, from where is this revenue going to come from? Because even if you look at the tax rates, unless the tax changes, which I'm sure Bobby will be in a better position to explain, whether they're going to garner additional resources, or are we going to fall back on the PSUs paying higher dividends, or the Reserve Bank of India transferring higher surpluses? So the numbers, I mean, how do you really fit up? I think that's going to be the major challenge, because we haven't really had access to all these numbers. But the fact that we are bargaining for lower borrowing, and we're also looking at higher expenditure, lower disinvestment. I mean, I'm not quite sure about how the revenue is going to really come from both taxes as well as non-tax.
You know, some of the documents, budget documents have been uploaded on the PIB site. I've got all the numbers ready, but I need the tax revenue numbers, etc., the budget estimates for this year, and we'll know what kind of growth buoyancy, tax buoyancy we are expecting. Mr. Parikh, do come in on, you said a fair bit of focus on dispute resolution, and litigation in which government is a big participant, right? That seems to be a fair bit of the tax bit.
So I think, the reason why I sort of felt like this was somewhat, I felt like it warranted a more positive observation was just the fact that there are, we have a history of having, many statements of intent followed by committees that are formed to be able to do things or come up with recommendations, and then followed by some very piecemeal implementation of what the committees come up with. And I just, my feeling, at least just purely on the basis of the speech and without having the opportunity to look at the details, it sort of gave me the impression that there was a certain statement of intent that the government had, that we want to reduce litigation, we want to reduce arbitrariness, we want to reduce ambiguity, and we are going to take steps to be able to do that. And it's never going to be a sort of one sweep and everything is clear, but it needs to be a journey with some consistent direction in which all of the actions move. And I felt like from the speech that there were, that statement of intent did seem to be backed up by a number of decisions which they seem to be taking, and which again sort of seem to implement many of the recommendations coming from the committees.
Right.
So it sort of gave me some comfort that there was intent, and then that intent is being followed through by action.
Okay. Mr. Parikh, here to interrupt. Kotak has just joined us,
sure,
the Executive Vice Chairman and Managing Director, Kotak Mahindra Bank. Mr. Kotak, thanks very much for your